So I've been wanting to do this video for a little while just to talk about a couple of the guitars I own, only two of them on this occasion, just to document for myself and for some other people as well who've asked about them in the past. So the first one I'm going to talk about is my, I think 2001, maybe 2002 Fender Telecaster. It's a standard black Telecaster, came with a white scratch plate, and I bought it in a place called Sound Control in Dundee in Scotland, and I think myself and my father travelled down and went and tried to haggle and got nothing off, and yeah, bought the guitar. I needed a backup for the other guitar, which I'm going to tell you about in a bit. This, for some reason, seemed like the one to get. I initially wanted a seafoam green one, but I couldn't find one anywhere, and I spoke to somebody in a music shop and they were like, that's a sort of custom limited edition colour, it'll cost you a fortune. And I really wanted a maple neck because at my school there had been a Telecaster there, a Squire Telecaster there, that had a maple neck, and I always remembered that as being quite a nice guitar to play. I didn't want a Strat because my father had a Strat, and not that I don't get on that well with Strats, I just don't think I'm a Strat player so much. So yeah, bought the guitar in Dundee in Sound Control, and the full idea of it was just to have it as a backup guitar for the band that I was playing in at the time. Not that we did that many gigs due to one thing or another. But yeah, really good, really solid, bomb-proof guitar. I've changed a few bits out in it. It has Fender vintage noiseless pickups, which I got in the mid-2000s from the States. I ordered them online, which was kind of a dangerous thing to do considering they weren't that cheap. Ordered them into this country, got them fitted, that was all good. Definitely changed the sound a bit, just it cancelled all that sort of buzz and stuff that I was getting all the time in places where I was picking up computer screen if I was recording at home, or the lighting at various gigs and whatnot. Also changed the capacitor on the tone control as well, just to give a better sort of sweep for sort of rolling off a bit of tone here and there. So I did my first gig with the November 5 and I used my Gordon Smith, which I was really worried about gigging. Just didn't like having it in a pub environment and being susceptible, being nicked as stuff is in a pub environment. And I decided that the Telecaster was going to be the guitar to use for those gigs with that band, because there was quite a lot of gigs coming in because they had an album coming out, and yeah, it was very busy. I decided I needed something bomb-proof to get in there and do the job, and I can't even remember what the thinking was. I just fancied a change of look to the guitar because it looked a bit Avril Lavigne to my mind with the white scratch plate, and the idea was to get the black scratch plate instead, just because it might make it look a bit different. And put it on, and lo and behold, it became the November 5 Telecaster, and I used it every gig after that with the November 5, and there was a lot of gigs. I also played it on all the recordings in the album. I used the Gordon Smith a little bit for some work here and there, but the majority of stuff was done on this guitar. It's still in fairly good condition. It's needing set up at the moment, quite badly needing set up. I think there's a slight back bow to the neck. The frets could probably do with a bit of attention as well, but to be fair, it's not in bad shape at all. It's seen a lot of work, a lot of sitting in vans in the cold and out on stage and then back in a van and all the rest of it. It's definitely led a life, and it's a great guitar. It's still earning its keep, really. It's just slightly to the back of the list at the moment. But anyway, that is my Fender Telecaster. It's a Mexican Fender Telecaster. It's not a big expensive fancy one, although the prices of them now are probably going up. But yeah, it's a great guitar, a really good workhorse. Yeah, I like it a lot. This guitar I'm going to talk about is my Gordon Smith. I think it's a 1993 or 94 model. I think it's a Graduate 60, I believe. I'm not entirely sure. I've seen a couple like it maybe, but not exactly like it. I don't think from that era that there's that many exactly the same. They kind of changed what they were doing day in, day out. I'd never heard of Gordon Smith before, and I went to a shop in Dingwall in Scotland called Maitland Music, which I believe is now no longer there. The guy in the shop was incredibly helpful and really, really good, and he'd sold me my previous guitar, which I'd went on pure fashion sort of thing to get this Jaguar type guitar. It was a Holder Jaguar style or Jazzmaster style. It was a weird looking thing which had some tricked out circuitry so it could sound like all different guitars, and I really wanted that. Had to get that. It turned out to be pretty crap. It wouldn't stay in tune all that well. Just weighed a ton, and it wasn't what I wanted. But the one thing I did like on it was the Les Paul mimicking sound that it did was pretty nice. I liked that. It sounded pretty fat and had this sort of edge to it that I liked. So that kind of made up my mind that I wanted a Les Paul type guitar. Cut to then starting to look at them and not quite realising that an actual Les Paul is extortionate for somebody on my budget at that time, back in the early 90s. I ended up going to Maitland Music, chatting with a guy, and he was really, really good and said, oh, there's a few different guitars you can get, but I really think you want to have a look at these Gordon Smiths. Explained what Gordon Smith was, as in two people that were manufacturing, or three people that were manufacturing the guitar in a small workshop, small numbers, and as far as he was concerned, the guy in the shop was concerned, they were the British equivalent of Gibson, obviously on a much smaller scale. But yeah, I tried the guitar and head over heels, just could not believe it. The sound, the fact that it was coil tapped so it could still sound different as well if needs be, the playability of it, just the quality of finish for what you were paying for, like, just, yeah, out of this world. Great guitar. I have had this thing, I think since 94, maybe 95. The three-way switch has been replaced a heap of times. I've either broke them or just abused them too much, like cutting it out and stuff. But other than that, it has not really missed a beat. It's been perfect. Tuning, everything, just spot on. You can't go wrong with it. It sounds better every time I plug it in and play it. It's just a great guitar. I did a lot of gigs with it in old bands and stuff, and of late started gigging it again in the last year or so. I still get very nervous about gigging with it, just because the sentimental value more than anything. My parents helped me buy this. I mean, I think, kind of met me in the middle when it came to the money side of it, because they realised it was a lot of money for me, and I did a lot of other odd jobs and stuff, collecting glasses and helping people shift disco equipment and stuff to pay for this guitar. And I think they really saw that I was serious about playing the guitar and serious about getting this and serious about paying for it as well when this happened. Yeah, it's been with me an awful long time. It has been recorded almost to death. It's been recorded on lots of things. The album that I played on with the November 5, this guitar was used quite heavily on that to thicken up tracks and overdub stuff and all the rest of it, although the mainstay of it was done on the Telecaster. But my own recording, I've used this an awful lot on. And with the new stuff, with the new band, Chrome Mountain, this guitar has featured very, very heavily on what we've been doing there. And yeah, it's a great guitar. I can't really tell you that much about them because I don't know that much about them. I know they got bought out or sold off or whatever in the last couple of years, and they've changed the way they do them a wee bit. But they're still a really, really nice high-end guitar, although they go for silly money now. But yeah, it's a great guitar, and I can't stress enough how good this thing is. The coil tap is great. There's a lot of different sounds you can get, and because you can have one as a humbucker and one as a single coil and play between the two and mess about with the volume. There's like a world of sounds you can get out of this thing if you're prepared to mess about with it. I think this one is needing refretted at some point soon, and the hardware is pretty tarnished and it's all starting to wear through a wee bit. It's got a few dings on it here and there as well from various excursions to rehearsals and gigs and all the rest of it, and just general haphazardness. Coming in drunk, knock something over and it hits the guitar, it's like the end of the world, but what are you going to do? Just, yeah, I don't see me ever selling this one. It would be a very sad day that I had to sell this, I think. Hopefully, touch wood, I never have to. That is my Gordon Smith Graduate 60, or as much as I know about it anyway. Alright, thanks a lot.